Hey everyone, welcome back to another React UI build. Today we are working on a simple yet stylish contact form with a unique sketch style aesthetic. The idea behind this project is to create a clean and engaging form that not only looks great but also provides a smooth user experience. I came across this beautiful hand-drawn illustration on Pinterest which really inspired the design. We'll be implementing this UI using React and some neat styling techniques, keeping things simple yet visually appealing. So let's jump right in and bring this design to life. So I've initialized a new white project and integrated the Tailwind CSS with it. Now I'm going to add the Shatsian library to our project. I've already copied the necessary files, like in tsconfig I've copied this, in tsconfig.app.json I've copied this, again white I've copied all this. You can see this in the browser also. So as you can see, I've gone through step 3, 4 and 5. Now I'll copy this command and run it in the terminal. So I'll stop the server and run that command. I'll select neutral, and as you can see, the components.json file has been written and project initialization is complete. Now I'll add a button here. So pnpm dlx shatsian the rate canary add button. This should add the button component to our project. Then what we can do is we can use that button component here. There it is. I'll import it and I'll just say click. Now let's go to the browser and see what is happening. Oh, before that, actually I have to run the project. So pnpm run dev, this should run the project. Now if we move to browser and see what is happening, and as you can see, the button does appear. This means that the Shatsian UI library has been integrated with our project and we can move on. If you want a detailed step-by-step process of how to integrate Shatsian, you can see my previous video where I've gone through the steps. In this video I have not gone in much detail, but you can look at my previous video if you want to know the detailed process. Okay, so the first thing that we'll implement in our project, many of you, if you seen my previous video, already know, is called a container component. So those of you who don't know, it's just a component that I use in my every project that helps me with the layouting of the project. So let's do that. In components folder, I'll create a new file called container.tsx and I'll just paste the code from my previous project. So I copy this paste around for my every project. This just helps me with the layout. Now inside the app, everything will go inside the container component. So I'll import it, and inside that will go the container component. So if we now move to the browser, you can see everything is shift a little to the right. So the container component just helps in ensuring that everything stays in the middle. If I to inspect and I hover over, so you can see this is the container, right? Everything will be in the middle of the page. So that's where the container helps me. The next thing that we'll implement is this hero section, you could say. This let's work together title and the image. So let's move to VS Code Now I'll remove everything here. I'll give another div inside the first div, and this one will receive a class name which is flex items center and justify between. Inside the div we'll have a h1 tag saying let's work together, and the class name for h1 will be text 7xl font semi bold, then tracking wider actually, and flex 1 and margin top of 30. Now below this h1 will be a div with the class name of flex 1. Inside the div will be another div with the class name of width of 80%, and inside this div will come the image tag, and the image will be hero img.svg, or we can just write hero image. The class name will be with full and object contain. So this should do the job. Let's move to our browser and see what's going on there. So yeah, as you can see, this appears in our browser, so we can move on to the next thing. Also, every asset I have used in this project will be available in my GitHub, so you can download it from there. So do check out if you need these assets. So let's move on to the next thing. We'll implement this name input field and this budget input field, and rest we can just copy and paste, so that will be easy, but we'll implement these two first so that it helps in our layouting and stuff, and also this middle divider line will implement that as well. So what we will do is, below 3 divs we'll give another div. The class name here will be grade goals of 2, because there are 2 sections, then gap x of 52, then margin top of 20, and relative. Inside this div will come a separator component which we don't have yet, so let's add that. This is also coming from Shatsian UI, so I will write pnpm dlx Shatsian @ canary add separator. This separator will receive a class name of absolute top 0 and left 47%. Let's import this. Okay, and it will receive another attribute, orientation of vertical. Let's see if this appears in the browser or not. Refresh here. Okay, so I need to implement the div also for that to appear, so let's do that. So below this separator will be another div, so the class name of space y of 8. Inside the div will be another div with the class name of width of 96 and space y of 3. Inside this div will be a label component. This is coming from HCM, so we can add that now. We'll add label, and we'll also add the input component. You can add the input component as well. Import this. Inside the label will say name. The class name for the label will be flex items center and a gap x of 2. So this will come inside a h3. The class name for this one will be text large, and above the h3 will be an image tag, the source of which will be /user dot svg, and you can say user here. The class name here will be width of 30 pixel. So the label is done. Next, below the label will be the input component. Here the class name is quite long, so bear with me. First will be rounded none, italic, text gray 500, text large, tracking wide, border black, padding y of 6, placeholder italic, placeholder tracking wide, placeholder text large, also placeholder text gray 300, and the placeholder text here will be first and last. Let's see how this looks now. Okay, so this is looking nice. The separator also appears, as you can see, this one. Now one thing we want to change here is this thing, this ring that appears when we focus the input. So let's do that. So for making changes in the input component, I'll just move inside the input component, and you can see this line, we'll comment that out. We don't want that. So this is saying when it is focused, there should be a ring in the border. That should not happen. What should happen instead of that is when it is focus visible, it should be border gray of 300. So instead of that ring appearing, the border should turn from black to gray. Let's see if that works. And that is working. So we are done with the input of the left side. Let's do that on the right side as well. So it's basically easy now. We can just copy paste this whole thing. We'll copy paste from here, move it down. Instead of name, it will be branding, I guess that was the title. Oh, not branding, it's actually budget. So budget, then here with the budget will be a span tag, and inside the span will be optional. The class name for this will be text gray of 300, italic, and text small, and input will remain same. The placeholder text will change, and we'll write cash money. If we now move to the browser, or actually I was in the browser, sorry. So here's the code. If you have missed that, not if you have missed that, but this is the code. We just copy pasted everything and made the necessary changes. So if we now move to the browser, you can see everything is working fine. The separator appears, the input is working fine. Cool, let's move on. Next, we'll implement these left side input and text area and button, these three things. So let's do that. So let's move to VS Code here. Then below this div, which houses the name input, we'll give another div with essentially the same class name. So I'll copy paste here. Actually, I can copy paste the entire thing. Let's do that only. Copy paste this div below and just make the necessary changes again. So the name will be company name. Then inside that will be a span. So I'll copy this from here. Give a space here. Then here will be company name, and this should work. Next we need a text area, so I'll add that text area. So I'll again copy paste everything down, and instead of this input we'll use a text area. So let's just do that. Text area, placeholder will be, let's work together. Rest everything will be same, and here will not be company name, it will be message, and this will not be there. This optional thing will not be there, so I'll remove that. Then below this div will be a button saying send message. The class name here will be rounded none, width of 96, and padding y of 6. So let's see if there is any error in the browser, or it looks just fine. So okay, so this text area is a bit small. We'll need to fix that. So in the text area class name, what should happen is it should have a height of 36, and this padding y should not be there. So let's see now. Again, I forgot to switch the screen, so if you missed it, height 36, height 36, and no padding. So let's move again. So now it looks fine in the browser. Okay, next we'll implement this project section, this one. So let's do that. We move to the VS Code and we'll write new component itself in this file only, but it will be a different component. So const project section equal to functional component, return, what will it return? It will return a div with the class name of grade goals of 3, because there are 3 sections, gap x of 4 and a gap y of 6. Inside the div will map over projects dot map. So what will these projects be? This will be a use state. So const projects set projects equal to use state, and of course there will be an initial value, but we can put it later. So it will be a project, and actually there will be project and key, and will return a div. So what will this initial state be? I'll just copy paste it. This is the initial state. So we have 6 cards, so that's why 6 objects, and each one will have a label, the name, the image source, and a is selected field. So let's put that here, initial state, project type. Okay, now in the div will be a key, which will be equal to the key, basically the index. Then class name will be flex call items center, gap y of 1, group, hover, cursor, pointer. Inside, not inside, there will be an on click function here, which will set projects. It will have previous state, and what will we do? Will map over the previous state item, and we'll say item dot label equal to project dot label. If it is true, we'll return dot project or item, and is selected will be opposite of item dot is selected. So if it is already selected, it should turn it to a false. If it's not, it should turn into a true, and else will return the item itself. Now inside the div will be another div. Class name here will be the cn function, which you can import from the utils, and the cn function will receive padding of 3, border gray of 300, border of 2, aspect of square, group hover will be border black, transition colors duration 300, is in out. Also, the cn function will receive a conditional class name which is border of black. This will happen if the item is already selected. So project dot is selected. If it is true, the border should be black. Now it will receive an image. The source will be project dot image, alt will be project dot label, and class name will be with full object contain. Below the image tag and below this div tag will be h3. The class name, again we'll have to use cn here because there will be conditional classes. Cn text gray of 400, group hover text black, transition colors duration 300, is in out, and the conditional class name will be text black. Again project dot is selected. Inside the h3 will show project dot label, and that should do our work with the project section. Let's save it, and the project section will come inside this main app. So that will be below this div. We'll have, we can just copy paste actually. Yeah, we can copy paste this div below. Instead of input, we'll have the project section, and in the label will be project type. Here will be select all, that apply. Let's move on to the browser to see how it's looking. And as you can see, this appears, no actually this one, yeah. So this section is complete and it is working as we need. We can select as well as deselect items. Now let's move on and implement the last kind of a navbar component.
So for the navbar, I'll be using a nav tag with the class name flex items center justify between. Now inside the nav tag there will be a div with the class name flex item center and a gap x of 2. Inside that div will be an image tag with the source being yt logo dark dot svg and an alt of logo. And the class name here will be with 40 pixel and object contain. Now below this image will be an h2 with the class name of text large font semi-bold, and inside we'll write code 007. Feel free to write anything as you wish. Now below this h2 and the div will be a button. Now inside the button we'll write return to home page, and beside that will be a span. Inside the span there will be an image tag with the source being house.svg, alt of house, and a class name of width 15 pixel. Now the class name for the button will be spacex3 text extra small, tracking tight, and font of semi-bold. The button will also receive a variant of host. So we are done with the navbar. Now let's move to the browser and see how it looks. There the navbar appears, and we are done. And that's a wrap. This was a simple UI project in React. Nothing too complex, but a fun exercise in design and implementation. The goal was to create a clean and minimalistic UI for a contact form with a creative touch. The sketch style illustration has a unique aesthetic, making the UI feel more personal and engaging. I found the reference image on Pinterest, and the link will be in the description below. Also, if you are curious about the code, you can find the GitHub repository link down there as well. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more React projects. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. What could you improve, or what should I build next? And I'll see you in the next one.